Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, the introduction to the Elder Justice website. Before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone can see and hear us. So there are instructions on the screen for those of you that may be having trouble with your audio. Make sure you're dialed into the number. If you can hear us but can't see us, please email Danielle McLean. She's providing technical support for this webinar. Her email address is dmclean@ovcttac.org. That's dmclean@ovcttac.org. To let everyone know, the session today is being recorded and will be made available on our training website after the webinar today, so that if you aren't able to listen to all of it today or want to forward it out to your colleagues, we will be sending out the link. If you have any questions, we encourage you to use the feedback box down on the lower right-hand side of your screen, the chat feature, so that we can address as many questions as possible towards the end of the webinar. We'll move right along into our welcome and introductions. Our first presenter today is Dr. Susan Lynch. She's Senior Counsel for Elder Justice at the U.S. Department of Justice. She has prosecuted long-term care facilities who do not adequately care for their residents for almost 2 decades. She works in the Elder Justice Policy for the Department of Justice Elder Justice Initiative, and she has a Doctor of Public Health from Hopkins School of Public Health and a JD. So Susan, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Elder Justice Initiative webinar focusing on the Elder Justice website. As I was introduced, I'm Susan Lynch, and I'm really pleased to be here with my colleague, Dr. Sid Stahl, a research consultant with the Elder Justice Initiative Director at NIH. We have an hour together today, and we're going to focus on the work of the initiative and importantly, the work of the website. And we also really would like your input on the website as we go through in terms of ways that we can improve. So we'll start out today with the agenda. Our agenda focuses on 3 items. First, the Department of Justice's Elder Justice Initiative work. Second, and most importantly, the work of the Elder Justice website. And then finally, any audience questions and suggestions that you may have. So I'd like to start out by saying that the content on the Elder Justice website is really driven by the 4 areas of mission of the Elder Justice Initiative, and they are the following: to promote justice for all older Americans; secondly, to help older victims and their families; third, to enhance state and local efforts through training and resources; and finally, to support research to improve elder abuse policy and practice. And so the question is, how does the department promote elder justice for older Americans? And first, by investigating and prosecuting financial scams that target seniors. And this happens department-wide, civil, criminal, consumer, all areas of the department. Secondly, by pursuing nursing homes that provide grossly substandard care to seniors. And this is done in particular through the Elder Justice Task Forces, which we will highlight in a moment. And finally, by promoting federal, state, and local coordination to combat elder abuse. Secondly, how do we help older victims and their families? We provide direct assistance to older victims, connect older victims and their families with resources, and finally develop and disseminate resources to enhance the ability of service providers to respond to the needs of older victims. Finally, and well, I should say third, how do we engage in training and resources? And here we provide training to professionals in all different aspects and fields related to elder justice and promote greater coordination among professionals through resources for multidisciplinary teams. And now finally, how do we support elder abuse research? And this is certainly something that Dr. Sid Stahl will be talking about at length later in the program today. But we support research to increase the understanding of elder abuse and financial exploitation, and support focused research to improve professional practice to benefit older victims. At this point, we can transition to the Elder Justice website, where we're going to walk through the website and really show you the resources that are available, starting at the top and moving over to the left now. And can everybody now see the Elder Justice website?
Yes, it seems to be working now.
Great, fantastic. Okay, Terrific. So I'm glad everybody can see it, and I'll roll back just so that we're all starting at the beginning. So we're going to go through today on a tour through the left nav. We'll start with the home page and then go down through victims and families, financial exploitation, et cetera. And so, as I was saying, we can see here on the persistent link, report abuse or find help, the ability to be able to click on that link and find places to report abuse or find help. And so, as you can see, there are 3 different areas that I'd like to have folks focus on now. One is calling. Obviously, if it's an emergency, you will call 911. But also, for non-life-threatening emergencies, it's important to see that you can call the Elder Locator Helpline or the Victims Connect Helpline. The second area to report abuse is to APS. And reporting suspected abuse to Adult Protective Services, you can see that Adult Protective Services is a bit of a browner color, which means that it's a link. When clicking on that link, what you will find is that you will go from the website to APS and be able to locate by your actual location there the specific area that you're able to find for the location of APS. And then finally, Sid Stahl is going to talk about this a lot more, but find help near you. A very important feature of the website is the zip code. Enter zip code below. You can put in your zip code, and I'll let Sid go through that, and it will take you to all kinds of help near you. And this is featured quite prominently in the victims and families and caregivers section. So moving on to other areas that I wanted to highlight for you on the home page. So secondly, if we go over to the En Español link, and I'm going to click on that for you, you will see that major portions of this website have been translated into Spanish. And so the key areas that have been translated into Spanish are the victims and families section on the left nav. You can see that's the first, and then financial exploitation. And so for folks that can access this information in Spanish, this is obviously going to be critical. Also clicking on the important reporting link, as you can see here, this is also, again, translated into Spanish. So that is also an important feature. And I would say that by the end of this year, it is our goal to have the entire website in those areas we select also translated into Spanish as well. So moving back to other areas of the website that I wanted to focus on to get back to the English site is that safe exit is obviously an important button for us to focus on here for a moment. And as you can imagine, if somebody is being abused in their home and they're looking for help or information, they want to be able to quickly exit off of this search for help or report abuse into something that would be less problematic for them in their home. So if they click to the right of the En Español on Safe Exit, you can see that that brings you to actually the National Weather Service quickly, and from there you can you can be more protected and also find out what the weather is. So those are basically some areas that I wanted to focus on the home page. Finally, I would just say in closing on the home page that when I talked at length at the beginning about the work of the Elder Justice Initiative, each of those areas, so promoting justice, helping over victims, enhancing training, and finally research, are detailed very clearly here at the bottom of the page. And if we go all the way to the end, you can certainly see all those areas in which the Elder Justice Initiative is working to advance and combat elder abuse and financial exploitation. And so at this point, I will turn it over to Sid to work on victims, families, and caregivers.
Let's do the first one. On the left navigation side, it says victims, families, and caregivers, and click on that. And the purpose of this is really to provide resources and information and services. So if you or a client or someone you know wants information about the various types of elder abuse, their signs and symptoms, then this should be this part of the website should be most helpful. Again, as Susan mentioned, we're very much concerned about reporting elder abuse, and so at the top of the victims and family, if you click on Report Elder Abuse, you get the same page that you did before. And we'll just demonstrate one of these. And on the bottom, let's take a look at a county in rural California. And let's see what comes up there. And this is connected to a county connected to Mendocino County in California. And let's take a look at what a person would do if they wanted to report elder abuse, and they just click on the Elder Protective Services, APS services, and search, and you'll see the numbers for various APS offices in Mendocino County and in nearby, excuse me, in nearby counties. So let's go back. Here we go, and go back one more. And let's take a look at the various types of elder abuse. Let's, just for demonstration purposes, let's just take a look at physical abuse. And as you'll see up here, there are a number of stories or vignettes. The one, physical abuse by an adult grandson, a long-term care aide, etc. And there are a number of vignettes that you can read about, as well as did this happen to you? The did this happen to you part are really are kind of indicators of physical abuse that may have happened to the individual. Has someone hit or kicked you? Has someone pushed or shoved you, etc. And then finally, warning signs about elder abuse. If someone, physical abuse, if someone sees sprains or laboratory findings indicates over or under medication, those are warning signs, potential warning signs of elder abuse. And again, if you want to report elder abuse, you get back exactly to the same page. So we are certainly committed to helping individuals reporting elder abuse. Let's just take one more. Let's take a look at let's say neglect or abandonment. And again, there are a series of vignettes about neglect or abandonment. There are indicators or at least examples of types of neglect, and finally there are warning signs in types of neglect. So at the bottom again, remember that you can always report elder abuse and find help for reporting elder abuse with that page. I'm going to move on now to the financial exploitation portion of the website. Click on the left nav, and you'll see here you'll find excuse me. You'll find here again reporting financial exploitation, and you'll find three parts to this. The first part is the Elder Abuse Resource Roadmap for financial situations. And if you're interested in the federal resources for reporting financial exploitation, or getting more information about financial exploitation, you can click on this the button at the bottom called the Resource Roadmap and answer a few questions. So let's just go through a couple of examples. Let's say that you want to find out who caused. You had to ask the question, who caused the financial exploitation or the financial loss, and let's say that it's someone you know or trust, and so I clicked on the first button, and let's say someone is using your ATM card, and so that would be a form of theft or pressured out of money, and so let's click on that. And then you'll see examples, and the very first one is the ATM card, and you'll see where to, and it'll suggest places to report. And so if you click on a report abuse, you're leaving the website, but you will get the NAPSA, the National Adult Protective Services Association's map on how to and where to report financial exploitation. And so let's go back, and I'll give you another example. And this time, let's take a look at a problem with reporting someone in a bank official, for example, may have done something that you consider inappropriate or wrong. So let's take a look at the roadmap. And again, who is the person? And it would be, let's say it's a financial professional, and it concerns your bank account, and that comes up with examples of types of financial exploitation. And this time you would submit a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and indeed down here is credit card or various types of financial exploitation that are appropriate to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We are committed at Justice to working with other federal agencies and not duplicating their sorts of services, and hence we have a link through. I'm just going backwards again. We have a link through the Elder Abuse Resource Roadmap of a number of federal agencies. Another feature of the website is the financial scam or senior alert scam, and this is a portion of the website that has a number of scams that we are currently aware of. And let's just take the tech support scams as just an example. And again, here is a statement about what the tech support tech support scam is about. And the suggestion is that it be reported to the Federal Trade Commission. And here's the Federal Trade Commission's website that deals with reporting this type of financial scam. And we'll go back to the website again. And finally, there's a portion here called Get Involved if you want additional information to help strengthen awareness in the community or empower older adults to fight financial fraud. There are a number of sources of information that are available. Let's just take a look at one of them. Let's take a look at the Senior Medicare Patrol. And here is the Senior Medicare Patrol's website, and I'll give you examples of how to get involved and what you might do to report or to deal with this type of financial exploitation. I'm going to I'll go back to the main site and turn it back over to Susan.
Thank you, Sid. So as we go through the website, it becomes pretty clear that the department is committed to combating all types of elder abuse and financial exploitation, but also that this website and the initiative is serving various audiences. And so what I'm going to do now is talk through the resources available for prosecutors, law enforcement, and victim specialists, all who have tremendous roles to play in combating elder abuse and financial exploitation. So starting here on the prosecutor page, the real key focus is that investigation and prosecution of elder abuse resources should be available, and that, in fact, knowledge should never be a barrier to prosecuting or investigating elder abuse cases. And so what you'll see here, there are 4 key sections, I should say there are 5 key sections here that we're going to focus on when talking about the prosecution side of elder abuse and financial exploitation. The first is our training and resources videos, and so I'm going to click on that and take a moment, if you will, to really look through and see the wealth of information that's available on these sets of videos. And as you can see, these videos cover the timeline and lifespan of investigating one of these cases. So starting out with the investigation and charging of a potential target, and there are videos on that. And in particular, the real power of these videos is that they're addressing these issues from the perspective of experts who have been prosecuting these cases for many, many years. And many of you will probably, listening today, will recognize the name of Paige Ulray, Senior Deputy Prosecutor in Seattle, Paul Greenwood, Deputy District Attorney in San Diego, Nadia Farini, and many of the others. And so they're giving you really pithy bits of information on all of these important topics. And the other really important issue is that if you look at the times of these videos, they're short and sweet, right? So you're going to get the information, in 8 to 10 minutes. These aren't 2-hour videos. So we'll start with investigation and charging, and then who in the community is involved and how can they help? And so obviously important to know what resources are out there. These are multidisciplinary prosecutions. You can't bring one of these cases yourself. You need experts, and you need a lot of other people in the field. And the second section addresses that. The third is, what information should I have to properly handle these cases? And again, these cases involve not only physical evidence, electronic evidence, but also the medical aspects of elder abuse, and are oftentimes involve reviewing medical records, looking at falls and bruising. And what we've been fortunate to do is develop relationships with experts all over the country who are the key experts on these issues and put together some of these videos and edit them. Obviously, critical issues in elder abuse and financial exploitation cases involve cognitive capacity, dementia, and other types of issues that commonly and sadly come in these types of cases. And so there are all kinds of videos on dementia, cognitive capacity, screening tools, et cetera. Defendants typically raise common defenses. And so what we've done here is also put together a series of videos on the types of defenses that you're likely to come across. And those will involve issues of capacity and other types of defenses that you'll typically see in these cases. As I mentioned, working with experts, a critical piece, a bunch of different vignettes and videos on how to work with experts and how to work with older victims. Again, challenging cases, but this information is brought to you by the experts. Finally, one favorite of mine is Paige Ulray's Roles and Benefits of a Facility Dog. And that really goes to the issue of it's so important to have your witnesses and victims be at ease when they're discussing these very personal issues, and oftentimes a pooch is helpful in that regard. Finally, I wanted to highlight an area, related videos, which we intend to build out significantly over the course of this year, but it involves federal webinars and what Sid Stahl talked about earlier, which is that the department is not only committed to working with federal, state, and local partners, and also all the different members of the multidisciplinary teams needed to combat elder abuse and financial exploitation, but also many other federal partners. And so if we move to this section, you can see that we've done work with U.S. attorneys' offices on the issues of elder abuse, financial exploitation, as well as the Postal Service, Homeland Security, and others. And we're working closely with all of these people now. I'd like to turn now, in addition to the videos, information needs to be communicated as well in the area of samples. And so for those of us who prosecuted these cases, searching for relevant samples is always an important thing. And so we've worked tirelessly to put together a very vast database of federal and state samples on issues relevant to elder abuse and financial exploitation. So let's pretend, for example, a relevant bit of pretending that I'm a prosecutor, a federal prosecutor, looking for information on corporate integrity agreements. And so I'm going to click federal in my drop-down box here, as you can see, and then I'm going to look at the drop-down category of corporate integrity agreements. And for those who aren't familiar with these, they're an agreement a lot of times that a corporation has to enter into when they settle a healthcare fraud case with the United States that will basically monitor their activity going forward to make sure that they don't continue to do whatever it was that got them into the hot seat in the first place. If I hit search, you'll see that a whole bunch of different agreements come up. And the beauty of this is it tells you, as you can see here, the brown writing here, Hospice of the Comforter, Inc., will give you a link to the actual document. You can see the year of the document, the number of pages, and a little bit of information about that particular document. So I'm going to click on it now, and this gives you the actual text of this particular corporate integrity agreement. So, I encourage you to look at that, particularly if you're in a federal prosecutor. And let's say that I'm a state prosecutor. Let's say that I'm a criminal prosecutor in Maryland. So I go down to Maryland. And let's say that I'm interested in potentially indicting someone on an elder abuse count, and I want to see some examples of indictments and information, because I've never done one of these cases before. So I search. I wait a moment, get some coffee, and here we go. So we have an indictment. This is from, say, 2012, 6 pages. I click on my indictment, and what comes up is a Baltimore Circuit Court for Baltimore County and a criminal indictment involving abuse and neglect, and you can certainly read that. Now, I will say that all of these documents are filed publicly. This is not violating any, type of confidentiality or anything like that, but it is a resource where you can find documents that you might need depending on which state you are potentially prosecuting in. I'm going to move now to state elder abuse laws, and of course, many of these links, which you can see again in brown, on civil elder abuse laws, civil and criminal financial exploitation, mandatory reporting, very important area, Native American elder abuse, guardianship, power of attorney, the compilation of state laws and guides, and alternative charges. Many of these are going to take you off of the Department of Justice website because these particular state topics are maintained by the organizations that are charged with maintaining these. And so let's move to the Native American Elder Abuse link and go to the National Indigenous Elder Justice Initiative Elder Abuse Codes. As you can see here, I'm going off the Department of Justice Elder Justice website to the National Indigenous Elder Justice Initiative. And here you can see by state and by tribe within state a number of different rules. And again, the Department of Justice is very supportive of all of these organizations and certainly defers to these groups with a specialty in this area to keep these updated. So this is the state elder abuse laws section. I now want to move to an area that's very near and dear to my heart, which is the Elder Justice Task Forces. And I've been privileged since their launch in March of 2016 to work with and really lead this tremendous group of 10 Elder Justice Task Forces. And as you can see, these task forces are in 10 different districts throughout this country. And the districts are listed here. Starting with the Northern District of California and going all the way down, and I'll go down slowly for everyone here, the Western District of Washington. And you can see in each of these cases, if you were to click on the brown, for example, Western District of Washington, it would bring you to the U.S. Attorney's page of the Western District of Washington. The names that are listed under the districts are the contacts, the point of contacts for these task forces within that jurisdiction. And so who are these task forces? These task forces are made up of all of the different multidisciplinary players that it takes to really bring an elder abuse or financial exploitation case, to bring a case against nursing facilities that are not adequately caring for their residents. So the charge of these task forces, when they were launched in March of 2016 by Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Ben Miser, was basically to bring together teams of federal, state, and local prosecutors and others to resolve cases involving nursing facilities that are providing grossly substandard care to their residents, and that was the charge. However, since that time, many of these task forces have begun to look at state-based elder abuse and neglect cases, as well as financial exploitation cases. And so, as you can see here in the opening paragraph, they consist of a multidisciplinary team of federal and state prosecutors, as well as members of Adult Protective Services, long-term care ombudsmen, some have EMS, regional CMS, et cetera. So a very robust group. If you do have issues that you think the task force should be aware of and you want to reach out to the task force, I invite you to do so by looking at the particular state, or I should say district, and emailing the appropriate person. Finally, we are continually updating the district spotlight, which goes through the various task forces and what they've been doing. I mean, as you can see here, the task forces are engaged in not only resolving cases, but also training. So there's a lot of training that goes on at the regional level, as well as community outreach. And so, again, it's 3 charges of these task forces: to resolve matters, do community outreach, and do training. So that is our task force page, which is being updated and built and expanded on a daily basis. Finally, I would like to turn to another page that is also being expanded as we speak, which we're extremely proud, and that's our MDT Technical Assistance Center. And what this page shows you is the mission of this center, again, to provide tools and resources and individualized consults to basically facilitate the expansion of multidisciplinary teams. And as we've said many times, multiple times, it really does take a village in these cases. And so what our technical advisor, our MDT technical advisor, and her contact information is down at the bottom of the page, and that is Talitha Gwynn Shaver. She is extremely experienced in this area and is able to provide a number of different resources and opportunities for folks out there. Obviously, as summarized on this page, responding to requests for materials and information, providing on-site consultations, and also site visits as approved. in individual cases. So please take a look at this information and consider reaching out to our advisor, Talitha, if you think that this could help you out in your MDT. I'm going to switch gears now to law enforcement. And, law enforcement, obviously, both federal, state, and local, play a crucial role in combating elder abuse and financial exploitation. Law enforcement, as well as sometimes EMS, depending on the situation, are oftentimes the first responders to a case of elder abuse or financial exploitation in the community. And so this particular page is geared toward our audience of law enforcement, where we are showing a bunch of different types of resources for that audience. First is reporting obligations. Obviously very, very important, and you can click here and see, are you a mandatory reporter? And you can look on a state-by-state basis and find out information regarding reporting. Elder abuse sample protocols and state statutes. So again, here we have, and we're obviously building this out, additional state protocols to follow, but some from California, Illinois, and Michigan. And then back to what we discussed earlier, elder abuse laws by state, where you can go through and actually find the relevant laws in your state. Investigating elder abuse. And here are a lot of phenomenal resources on, how to investigate elder abuse, including the second one here, investigating elder abuse, law enforcement's best practices for a positive outcome. And that's put out by the National Center for Victims of Crime. I invite you to go through that at your leisure. Again, legal issues related to elder abuse, a pocket guide for law enforcement, a really, really important document that was put out by the ABA. Moving on to general elder abuse training, you can see here various aspects of the training. And again, important dissemination of this information, not only just the information itself, but actually getting it to the hands of law enforcement in the way that they want to receive it. So again, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has the elder abuse roll call video. I invite you to click on that and get more information there. We've talked about other important issues. Obviously, Alzheimer's disease and capacity issues are very important, and you can read about that and see the first responder training program here from the Alzheimer's and Dementia Caregivers Center, HIPAA requirements, and then issues related to all the different types of elder abuse. So we have sexual, physical, and financial. And then finally, there are other folks at the table who are providing tremendous information on law enforcement, such as the National Center on Elder Abuse, National Committees for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, and finally the ABA. So again, a resource that we have that's extensive for law enforcement. Moving finally from my piece here to the victim specialists. And again, victim specialists, critical players in combating elder abuse and financial exploitation. They work closely with U.S. attorneys' offices and law enforcement and others to basically ensure victims' rights, to ensure that the victims are treated with respect and worked with throughout the process of what will be, oftentimes a challenging time in their lives. What you see here, again, reporting obligations, the rights, federal webinars, and all types of information related to victim specialists. And what I'd like to focus on for a moment, because we've gone through a lot of this, is help and information and training for victim specialists. So again, Office of Victims of Crime, National Center for Victims of Crime, all have training in this area, National Clearinghouse on Abuse Later in Life, and all the way down, where you can find replication manuals and all types of training for victim specialists. You can learn more about elder abuse and financial exploitation at some of these obvious federal websites, FBI, FTC, all of these organizations that are part of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council that handles these issues with the cooperation among the federal agencies. And then finally, the last area that I'd like to focus on briefly before turning it back to Sid for a discussion of the research is materials related to elder abuse presentations. And for those of you that will be going out into your communities and doing presentations to raise awareness and connect with the community, I commend to you these materials to get involved and get out there and really spread the word, because education is really going to be key here. So without further ado, let me turn it back to Sid to discuss research and related literature.
This portion of the website, research and related literature portion of the website, really is a compendium of scientific, general, and government literature in the area of elder mistreatment, elder abuse, and related areas as well. Turn your attention first to the two publications here, and these will, and as DOJ becomes more involved, increasingly involved in the scientific areas around elder abuse, this will expand. The first of these is the Elder Justice Roadmap, which was solicited from, I believe it was about 750 stakeholders, contributed to the importance and the feasibility of certain areas of elder abuse, including direct services, policy, education and training, as well as research. The other one up here is the consensus document, which drilled down into the research area of elder justice from the Elder Justice Roadmap, and sampled 26 of the most published people in the area of elder mistreatment for their suggestions in prioritizing the areas of elder abuse. You'll see here a number of facts. A few have been mentioned already, as well as the citations for those facts. Go back up here to research and related literature, and let's take a look at the Elder Justice database. Elder Justice Research and Related Literature Database. This is a compendium of over 6,300 abstracts and articles and books and government documents, all related to elder abuse. And it is regularly updated with approximately 40 or so publications that we find in the literature each month. And I'll give you a few examples of how to use this. Let's say that we're interested in some work by one of the leaders in the area, Mark Lax, and so we'll just enter his name up here, and we'll search on it and see what Lax has done in the area of elder abuse. Wait a second for it to grind there. And go down, and you'll see that there are 52 publications that Dr. Lax has published since the beginning of this bibliographic compendium. Let's say we're interested in finding out what he has done in nursing homes, and so we'll look at location of abuse, and we'll put in institutional, and let's see what that will get us. We see that of his 52 publications, 13 of them are done in institutional settings. What has he done in institutional settings that has to do with, let's say, sexual abuse? Search, and you will see there are 3 publications that he's written in that particular area. Let's get rid of institutional settings, and let's go to a community setting. And we'll see that one of his publications in 2002 was done on research in community settings on sexual abuse. Let me show you something else that's a very critical feature of the website. Turn my notes over here. We'll reset this, and let's say that we're interested in original research, someone who's done actually original research in the area of neglect. Type of abuse is, let's go to neglect and abandonment, not necessarily a self-neglect, and let's see what original research in the area of neglect has been done that involves adult protective services. So there's a column here, or a series of categories here on professionals. So we'll click on adult protective services, and we'll search, and we find that there are, I think I left something out there because I didn't want to do, oh yeah, I'm sorry. What I wanted to do was to go to the type of research, the approach, and I wanted to put in interventions. And now I'll search it. That'll be a little more manageable for this demonstration. And we find that there are four pieces of research that have been done on original research done on interventions on neglect that involve adult protective services. The first one here is by authors Alan and Berg Warman, and let's take a look at let's get the abstract that they've done. So we'll highlight the DOI. A DOI is a digital object identifier. I just learned that the other day myself, what it stood for. And we will copy the DOI, And we'll go up here to a Google search, and we'll paste that DOI into the Google search. And lo and behold, here's the abstract for the Alon and Berg-Warman article. I'll do that one more time with one more example. And let's say that now let's clear this, reset this. Let's say that now I am a prosecutor, so we'll go to professionals, and I'm interested in original research that has been done on the area of financial exploitation right here. And let's search on those categories. And we find that there are 21 articles that have been done on that have relevance to prosecution, that are on original research and financial exploitation. And let's just take the first of these by De Lima, Navarro, and colleagues. And so I'll copy the DOI, highlight it, copy it, put it into my Google search. Oops, there we go. And search. And there is the article. There we go. There is the abstract by De Lima and Navarro and colleagues. Very useful. Again, there are currently approximately 6,300, approximately 6,300 articles and books and abstracts in there. If you're interested in what each of those categories mean, you can go up here to the database, searching the advanced categories, the definitions for advanced categories. And you'll see that each of those are listed up here. Location of abuse, community, we use that before. The type of abuse is in here, professionals who we consider to be prosecutors, etc. While this is a very useful resource, realize that DOJ does not evaluate the merit or the accuracy of these materials that appear in the database. But if they're in the scientific literature, we depend upon peer review to do that for us. So I think this is a tool that I found extremely helpful in going through getting information about what has been written about various areas of elder mistreatment. And here's Susan.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sid. So at this point, the only other area that I'd like to have everybody take a look at is the Contact Us section. So if we go to that final page, in the event that you do have comments that we don't get to in questions, we have about 15 minutes for questions now, you can write to us on the email here, as you can see, ElderJustice, the ElderJustice at USDOJ.gov. Send us an email there with, in the title, webinar, and then we can respond to your questions. So I wanted to make that clear for everybody. And at this point, I will go back to the point where we should be able to get your questions and see them and respond to them. All right, terrific. So I'm going to start at the top and see some of the questions. So we have a question from, we'll start out with a question from Rachel that says, who would we talk to or email about adding resources to the page? And you're an AmeriCorps volunteer. Congratulations, that's an amazing program. For those who don't know, the department last year launched the AmeriCorps program to have legal services throughout the country, and we selected an amazing group of people to do that. And it looks like, Rachel, you're one of them. And that is an excellent suggestion. So if you could email us, as I suggested, using that contact and send us the information, and we will definitely look into adding that page or a section on what the Elder Justice AmeriCorps is doing. In fact, the thing about this, about the website is it's sort of a living and breathing mechanism. I wouldn't say a document, and we're going to add to it as the need of the audiences demand. So that's important. Similarly, and Sid jumps in here. Catherine has a question. Who do we contact to correct information provided on the link to report abuse in Missouri? Thank you very much for that question. So we're doing this webinar for a number of reasons. And the first is to get this information out because we believe that these resources are tremendous. The second reason is to improve our product. And so we really, really want to make sure that we've got the right information out here. We continually update it to our best. But to the extent that there's anything either missing or incorrect or something that you think we should add in your area, please, again, same answer, right? Send it to that particular website, and we'd be happy to include it. So the number of questions are the same. Dominic has a question about who should we contact if we want to add a resource, same information. Jen has a different question. She says, is there any information on the website that educates on criminal consequences of the person who harmed the survivor? I would imagine that there would be some conflict in contacting APS if someone they care for could be held accountable by the law. So is there any information? Not understanding that question. I mean, we certainly have information and documentation on various, and you can see this if you look on the prosecution page, on some of the consequences. In other words, like what would potential sentences be for individuals in different situations. There's also some of that on the requests for certain types of criminal sentences on the prosecutor's side, but there isn't that type of specific information. And also, I should add, in terms of who to contact, so we are not at the Department of Justice telling you who to contact. I mean, obviously, if you've got a situation that's an emergency, you would want to dial 911. But in the event that, that you're wondering, in a scenario such as this, who would you typically contact? That's a case where you would certainly take a look at some of the stories that are on, and you can see some of the areas where contacts could occur. It appears. Are there any other questions?
There was a question at the top that we missed.
Oh, okay. There are other questions. Did you go ahead?
The age of an elder varies by everything under the sun. Indeed, there are some people are considered older at the age of 55, some at 65. We have left the definition as loose as possible and allowed the people doing the work to define that. And I think it probably does vary for legal purposes by state. Susan, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So state, as you'll see in the various state laws, and you can, as we talked about, if you go to the state law section of the website, you can look at the various state laws, and they will define, the age of the older adult at different points for statutory purposes. So it's all going to be a bit different. Okay, let's see. So please continue to send the questions. Let's see, there seems to be a discussion here that Kathy has about the courthouse allowing therapy dogs for children but not for older adults, right? And I think, in many of these cases, we're breaking down barriers that it seems like certainly in the area of child abuse, and there are certain advantages that, we're all working toward getting, similar types of infrastructure in the case here. But certainly if you take a look at that video, you can see that the page really shows the benefit of keeping people at ease in that regard. And I see in the chat room that people are sharing information about additional training, and there's a link to the OVC TAC elder abuse, which is important as well. I should also mention that in addition to the website here, if you go to the Department of Justice main website and look under Office of Victims of Crime and many other areas that have been referred to on this website, you will see that there are additional elder justice resources there as well. And in most cases, we've linked, but it may well be, as I think Billy is saying here, that there are other areas where you may be able to find information here, and certainly ovctac.gov/elderabuse is one of them. Please feel free to type away questions. We've still got another few minutes here, and we'd be happy to respond to any areas where you think you'd like our answers to your questions. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Multiple attendees are typing, so we'll give them a second to actually to pop up. Here we go. Okay. So we have a question from Susan about, let's see, on resources on helping seniors set healthy boundaries. And so, you know, it's interesting. I suppose, I mean, I would have to say at this point in our development, we actually don't. I mean, if by healthy boundaries you mean sort of, you know, not allowing certain people, you know, into their homes and basic safety tips. We do link to a lot of organizations, like, for example, CFPB, and in the financial exploitation area, I suppose we do talk about setting boundaries on not, you know, if somebody calls you and asks you for your, you know, your Social Security number, you're not going to give it to them, and they say that they're the IRS because the IRS isn't going to call you for that information. So there are lots of tips like that on the financial exploitation side of things. There's also links to CFPB and SEC and others that you will see as Sid went through the year that go through in detail, and there's all kinds of information on the financial exploitation side on healthy boundaries, and so letting family members take advantage. Right. I think to further respond, thank you, Susan, for the clarification. If you go through, you'll see that in our stories, we have a series of stories that Sid went through and the victims and families, and part of that is, you know, a lot of people don't like to think of themselves as a victim, right? So I think part of the story approach is so that people can read, you know, this happened to me, and recognize that that the truth of the matter is they are a victim and they are being financially exploited, and they do need to take another step. I have another question from Kathy. We have so many victims of financial abuse, but nothing to help them get back on their feet with financial assistance. Right. I mean, I think that you know, we certainly hope to provide information and to connect people to the types of resources that they can get that type of help. I mean, certainly heavily embedded in our website and in the ER that we went through, that's the sort of the questions and answers about financial concerns, is links to the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. If you go to those links and if you follow them, you will find that there are just mountains of resources on the CFPB website, connected from our website, of course, on those types of things, on local connections, on all types of pamphlets and manuals where, again, CFPB has provided that information to the community. So the question that Karen has here, suggestions on how to persuade and convince state policymakers to allocate the necessary resources, is sort of the age-old question, right? If I knew the answer to that, I'd be on the Hill right now trying to advocate the same. So, you know, I think that, you know, that is definitely a challenge. I mean, I think that one thing that you always think about in the context of advocacy in that regard, and again, you know, our role here at the department isn't to, and in fact we specifically don't lobby, but, you know, you always have to think about, in good advocacy, who are the people that you're trying to advocate to, and what type of personal circumstances do they have. And so to the extent that, you know, a legislator has a family situation where they've had, sadly, a family member be a victim of this type of thing, I mean, it's always good to be able to talk on the human level, and getting more money is always, it's always critical.
One of the major problems, I think, in elder mistreatment, elder abuse research, is the fact that there's really no advocacy group that pushes for elder abuse nationally, and I think that Karen's question is really just the tip of the iceberg of not having a serious public awareness campaign throughout the U.S.
Absolutely. To get to Gloria's question, do you provide on-site forensic interview training, and how much does it cost? So, as you on the videos actually do go into some training on those types of questions, and I went through those under the prosecution site on site. So we Sid and I are sitting in in a room here in Washington, D.C., not too far from the main Justice Building. So we don't provide that much on site here, but that type of training, we are providing a tremendous amount of training in the field on interviewing and prosecution throughout. In fact, I think many states have these types of training through the department, but not through us here at Main Justice. In addition, the task forces are providing training across the regions as well. So, it may be a matter of just hooking up the training with those interested. Are there any other questions, please? We have probably 2 more minutes, and I'd like to answer any possible other questions that remain. And let me just reiterate, I think there's been some questions about the actual email address to send to. If you go to the website under Contact Us, and you can look down about midway through the page, you will see the email address for us at the Elder Justice Initiative. And if you click on that, you can send us a question. I would just ask for ease of processing on this end that you basically send it with webinar in the title so that we know that it's about a webinar and not about anything else. So that would be really very helpful. And let me just say, for those of you who haven't yet found it, the actual email address is ElderJustice.gov. And you can see it, and you can basically see it there on the page. So, well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. And just one more plug to say, please, if you have information that you would like us to change, if you have anything else that you'd like us to add, please send it along. We really want this resource to be the most effective it can be for everyone. So thank you all for your time, and we will be hosting other webinars. Please join us for the next one, and thank you again.